So now let's take a look at this question 2 here. So looking at the question, I can see that I'm looking from lines 5 to 11 and that they've given me lines 5 to 11 in this extract here. The question is, how does the writer use language, that's what I expect, to describe the mountain area? So I'm going to highlight this because it tells me exactly what I need to be focused on, the mountain area, not anything else, just the environment of the mountain area. The question then reminds me that I can look at words and phrases, language features and techniques, and sentence forms down here. But of course, I know that because I've been preparing for this. So now what I'll do, I'll read through it and I'll just make a note of anything that interests me with the language that the writer is using here. So it's her first time in the Pyrenees, although she feels very much at home. I don't really care about this sentence right now because I know that I need to focus on how the mountain area is described. And this is talking about some character not relevant to the question. She's been told that in winter, the jagged peaks of the mountains are covered with snow. I do like that phrase, jagged peaks. It suggests like roughness, harshness, danger. That might be something to write about. Covered with snow, could be okay, but honestly, that's kind of everyday language to me, I think. So I might say the streets covered with snow. I'm going to keep going. In the spring, delicate flowers of pink and mauve and white peep out from their hiding places in the great expanses of rock. Okay, that's kind of cool, actually, because we've got lots of beautiful descriptive imagery in here, I think. So, love that word delicate. Pink and mauve and white. We've got a nice little list of adjectives, of colors. We've got peep, that's a verb. That's also personification because peeping, looking, is something that people do. Flowers don't have eyes, they can't actually look at anything. And then we've got this idea of their hiding places. That's pretty cool too, because obviously flowers, they can't move, they can't think, they can't hide. People hide. That's personification. And this idea of the flowers like hiding and peeping out, like they're hiding from some kind of a danger. I think that's a really cool idea. It's a really cool image. I'm going to hang on to this one. So I'm just going to throw a highlight on that. I also see this great expanses of rock here, and I'm thinking this might be something to do with like the jaggedness, the harshness here. I can't think of anything to say about it yet, but might be interesting. I'll still throw an underline there. In early summer, the pastures are green and speckled with yellow buttercups. Yep, you know what? That's pretty. I like that. But I don't like this as much as I like the previous sentence. And I feel like it's kind of saying the same thing as the previous sentence. We've got pretty flowers and beautiful pastures. And it's same general idea. And if I was writing paper 1 question 4, where I needed to come up with 4 paragraphs, I think that definitely I would write a paragraph about this one. But because it's question 2 and I've only got 8 marks to earn, like it says down here, 8 marks, I'm only going to want to come up with 2 paragraphs. So I'm probably going to want to find 2 things where I can say something different about each paragraph. And then let's carry on. But now the sun has flattened the land into submission, turning the greens to brown. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting to me because we've got some like violent language here. We've got this flattened and submission. Sounds like an MMA match or something, or boxing or something. Like you flattened them. And then they're in submission, they're giving up. We've also got this idea of turning the greens to brown. So all this life, these beautiful flowers that are all brown and dead now because the sun is flattening the land into submission. It's like so hot, it's killing everything. So I'm going to highlight that one too. And I know from reading the examiner's reports that the examiners love it when I can point out a contrast of some kind, when I can show how two things are different. They just absolutely love that. So I think I can see a pretty big contrast here between this spring, when you have these cutesy little flowers peeping out from little hiding places, and then the summer when we've got the big nasty sun smashing them all into submission. Just to finish up with reading, it's a beautiful place, she thinks, yet somehow an inhospitable one. You know what? I like this sentence because this sentence is kind of summing up my thoughts here. It's a beautiful place, like I say in my first highlight, but it's an inhospitable one. It's a dangerous one where it's hard to live. So I'm going to try to remember this idea here about beautiful and inhospitable. I'm not going to choose this as the focus of one of my paragraphs, but I'm going to try to work this in somewhere because it is exactly the contrast that I'm trying to write about, I think. And then we've got this final sentence here. It's a place of secrets, one that has seen too much and concealed too much to be at peace with itself. That's a really cool, interesting sentence, but I don't see how I can work it in to the two that I've chosen so far. And maybe if I was writing this again, like another stab at it, I would talk about this. But right now, the way that I've chosen to approach this, I'm not sure how I'm going to. So let's get on with writing this then. I'm just going to stick this right below here. So I'm going to write about my first paragraph first. And my general point is that the writer is portraying the mountain area here. And I'm going to say that it's in this first sentence here, my general feeling is that it's beautiful, but also that it is like fragile, like it's easy to destroy. So it's a beautiful and fragile place. And he's describing it by focusing on the flowers that grow there. That's the general topic of this sentence here. And that's good to put in my first paragraph so that the grader knows what I'm going to be talking about here. If I just start dropping in quotes and I haven't introduced them at all, I'm not going to be getting very many marks at all, I don't think. So now let's get some evidence here. If I'm going to be doing like a General Peter type thing, got my point, now I need my evidence. So I'll say that we see, I'm going to try to use some embedded quotes here, just short little targeted quotes here. So I'm going to say we see flowers that are pink and mauve and white. And these are color adjectives. What are they doing? They make it sound beautiful here. Yeah, beautiful was the point I was making. These color adjectives give an impression of beauty. Okay, cool. But I also want to talk about how it's fragile, because that's the other thing I think about it. So, however, they are also, what was the word that makes me think that they were fragile? It was delicate. Yeah, delicate made me think they were fragile. They were also delicate, and we see them peep out from their hiding places. Good. Now, delicate, I don't think we need to say too much more about. But peeping out from their hiding places, I want to explain that a little bit more. Peep and hiding are both verbs. And those verbs, like I said earlier, they're personifying the flowers. They make them seem more like a person. And then I got to say, like, what the point of that personification is. What is it showing us? Because if we do a technique, we always want to say what the intent was, what that's showing us. And I think that is showing us that, like, they've got something to hide from, right? So I think that those verbs are going to imply that the flowers are living in a threatening environment. Now, I don't know what exactly is killing them yet at this part. So I'm going to say that the reader gets a sense that the beauty of the flowers is under threat. Good. I'm not going to talk about the sun killing them yet because I haven't introduced any of that yet. I'm just going to stick to this bit that I've said so far and what the reader's thinking about that. So that's a good Peter paragraph there. Let's try another one. And for my second one, I'm going to talk about how that the sun has flattened the land into submission, turning the greens to brown. And here, I think the writer is talking about like how harsh the summer is, like how violent the summer is. So I could just start off by saying the writer portrays the mountain area as harsh and deadly. I could say that, but I want to like link these ideas together, right? And I do want to point out a contrast because that gets me a lot of marks. I'm going to say later, the writer contrasts, and they're contrasting from the first bit up here, the beauty of spring. And they're contrasting it with this thing down here, this like nasty, harsh summer, deadly summer. Beauty with the deadliness, I like the word harshness, with the harshness of summer. And now I need some evidence. So we see that I love this quote. The sun has flattened the land into submission. And my technique here is personification. So I'm going to say here the writer is again using personification to like link this to the earlier personification up here. I'm going to say again using personification. Now I want to say how that's a little bit different though, because I don't want to be repetitive, right? I don't just want to be saying the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to point out how this personification here is different from this one up here. Here the writer's again using personification, but this time to show us the brutal effect of the sun on the land. Good. Now, how am I going to explain how this shows us a brutal effect? Well, if it's a Peter paragraph, I'm going to be explaining some words now, aren't I? The words flatten and submission are good words. And what do those words suggest to me? Well, those words suggest, like I would say, like an MMA fight, right? So I'm going to say they suggest aggression and violence. Yeah. So that's pretty good, but I don't feel like I've linked these two paragraphs together enough yet. Like here we've got these beautiful flowers, and here we've got like a aggressive sun, but is there a connection here at all? Yeah, I think there is actually. We've got this turning the greens to brown business. We've got the green plants that are turning brown and dead. So the words flatten and submission suggest aggression and violence. Bring that turning the greens to brown in there. It's not a word, it's a phrase, more than one word. The phrase turning the greens to brown. What's that phrase doing for me? What's the connection? I think it's showing us something. I think it's making something clear to us. It makes it clear that plants are dying, right? But if I just say the plants are dying, then I haven't brought the sun into it. I haven't. So I want to say the plants are dying because of the sun. I'm going to say it makes it clear that the plants wither and die in the summer heat. Okay. And now I finally need something for the reader. So the reader's going to get some sort of impression here. The reader is going to get the impression that the flowers, no, the whole mountains Beautiful, because the question wasn't about the flowers, was it? The question was about the mountain area, about the whole environment. So I want to make sure that I'm linking back to that. The mountains are beautiful, but also deadly. Yeah, I really like that there. Now, looking back at my second paragraph, I see now that I link to the beauty of the flowers. And I'm supposed to be talking about the mountain area. So I should probably make sure that my first paragraph is linked back to this mountain area idea somehow too. So instead of saying the beauty of the flowers, I might say the beauty of the mountain area is under threat. Yeah, because the flowers are part of the mountain area, but I do want to make it clear that I'm linking back to the question on both of those. Good. So now I've got two pretty awesome paragraphs, I think. They're both pretty much a Peter paragraph, a few changes here and there to keep in all of my ideas. And I definitely feel that I'm going to be at least safely in band 3 here. Top of band 3, I'm thinking. And, depending on how innovative the grader thinks my ideas are, this might actually even push me up a bit towards band 4. So I'm going to be pretty happy with this one so far. And I'm going to move on to question 3.